ELA Masters, I am so excited to get to read chapters 4 and 5 with you today of our historical fiction text, Sadako and the Thousand Paper Cranes. Make sure that you are thinking about what is fact and what is fiction. Let's go to chapter 4. Chapter 4, A Secret No Longer. For several weeks, it seems that the prayers and good luck symbols had done their work well. Sadako felt strong and healthy as she ran longer and faster. But all that ended one crisp, cold winter day in February. Sadako was running in the schoolyard. Suddenly, everything seemed to whirl around her and she sank to the ground. One of the teachers rushed to help. I I guess I'm just so tired, Sadako said in a weak voice. When she tried to stand up, her legs went wobbly and she fell down again. Friends, why do you think that Sadako felt so tired and so weak? Tell me. Hmm. Friends, we read yesterday that in addition to dizziness, feeling constant tiredness or weakness is another symptom. Let's keep reading. I I guess I'm just so tired, Sadako said in a weak voice. When she tried to stand up again, her legs went wobbly and she fell down again. The teacher sent Mitsui home to tell Mr. Sasaki. He left his barber shop and took Sadako to the Red Cross Hospital. As they entered the building, Sadako felt a pang of fear. Part of this hospital was especially for those with the atom bomb sickness. ELA Masters, what is the atom bomb sickness that Sadako is referring to here? Tell me. Right. We know that that is leukemia. Let's make sure that we pause our videos to type that in now. Leukemia. If you need to, pause your video to type that in now. Let's keep reading, friends. In a few minutes, Sadako was in an examining room where a nurse x-rayed her chest and took some of her blood. Dr. Numata tapped her back and asked a lot of questions. 3 other doctors came in to look at Sadako. One of them shook his head gently and stroked her hair. By now, the rest of Sadako's family was at the hospital. Her parents were in the doctor's office. Sadako could hear the murmur of their voices. Once, her mother cried, "Leukemia? But that's impossible." At the sound of that frightening word, Sadako put her hands over her ears. She didn't want to hear anymore. Of course she didn't have leukemia. Why, the atom bomb hadn't even scratched her. Scholars, it sounds like Mrs. Sasaki's and Sadako's perspective is that it's impossible for Sadako to have leukemia. The atom bomb, when it was dropped on Hiroshima, didn't scratch her or didn't touch her. Is that true? Agree or disagree? Right, friends. We now know from our schema after reading leukemia that something doesn't have to physically hurt you because you can get leukemia by being exposed to environmental factors or the things around you, like certain chemicals, smoking, or things like that. Friends, do you remember what was in the air all around Hiroshima for years after the bombs were dropped? Tell me. Right. There was radiation in the air all around Hiroshima and all around Sadako as she was growing up. This poison in the air was likely one of those environmental factors that she was exposed to and could have caused this sickness. Let's go to our Google form. Based on what we know from our schema after reading our nonfiction text yesterday, why do we know that Mrs. Sasaki and Sadako's perspective is not true? What could have caused Sadako's leukemia? It was probably the radiation around her. If you need to, pause your video to type that in now. Good. Let's keep reading. Nurse Yasunaga took Sadako to one of the hospital rooms and gave her a kind of cotton kimono to wear. Sadako had just climbed into bed when her family came in. Mrs. Sasaki put her arms around Sadako. "You must stay here for a little while," she said, trying to sound cheerful, "but I'll come every evening." "And we'll visit you after school," Masahiro promised. Mitsui and Fiji nodded, their eyes wide and scared. "Do I really have the atom bomb disease?" Sadako asked her father. There was a troubled look in Mr. Sasaki's eyes, but he only said, "The doctors want to make some tests, that's all." He paused. Then he added, "They might keep you here for a few weeks." A few weeks? To Sadako, it sounded like years. She would miss graduation into junior high school. And even worse, she would not be a part of the racing team. Sadako swallowed hard and tried not to cry. Friends, does it sound like Sadako was able to achieve her motivation if she was in the hospital? Tell me. Sadly, no, friends. Because she'll be in the hospital for a few weeks, she won't be able to run again and have the junior high team choose her. We know that was her motivation very strongly from the last couple chapters. Mrs. Sasaki fussed over Sadako. She plumped the pillows and smoothed the bread spread. Mr. Sasaki cleared his throat. Is there anything you want?" he asked. Sadako shook her head. All she really wanted was to go home. But when? A cold lump of fear grew in her stomach. She had heard that many people who went into this hospital never came out. Friends, what is Sadako's perspective about being in this hospital and this part of the hospital? Tell me. Right. It sounds like she feels scared. If you need to, pause your video and type that in now. Friends, why do you think that Sadako is feeling so scared right now? Tell me. Right. She knows how deadly the leukemia disease was, at least in 1950. Remember, friends, from our schema, we know that in the 1950s, only 33% of cancer patients survived. She's probably feeling scared that she might not. Let's keep reading. Later, Nurse Yasunaga sent the others away so that Sadako could rest. When she was alone, Sadako buried her face in the pillow and cried for a long time. She had never before felt so lonely and miserable. Friends, Sadako is just a little girl. If she was in school in the United States, she would only be in 5th grade. I just can't imagine what she might be thinking or feeling at this point in the story, and how I might be thinking or feeling if I were her. I know I'm going to take a few minutes here and pause to write that down and maybe even draw a picture for myself in my historical fiction journal. Remember, ELA Masters, keep your historical fiction journal handy in case we want to write down any important facts or anything that we're thinking or feeling as we're reading. Let's keep reading, ELA Masters. Chapter 5, The Golden Crane. The next morning, Sadako woke up slowly. She listened for the familiar sounds of her mother making breakfast, but there were only the new and different sounds of a hospital. Sadako sighed. She had hoped that yesterday was just a bad dream. It was even more real when Nurse Yasunaga came in to give her a shot. Getting shots is part of being in the hospital, the plump nurse said briskly. You'll get used to it. I just want the sickness to be over with, Sadako said unhappily, so I can go home. That afternoon, Chizuko was Sadako's first visitor. Can you remind me, who is Chizuko? Right, she's Sadako's best friend. She smiled mysteriously as she held something behind her back. Shut your eyes, she said. While Sadako squinted her eyes tightly shut, Chizuko put some pieces of paper and scissors on the bed. Now you can look, she said. What is it? Sadako asked, staring at the paper. Chizuko was pleased with herself. I figured out a way for you to get well, she said proudly. Watch. She cut a piece of gold paper into a large square. In a short time, she had folded it over and over into a beautiful crane. Sadako was puzzled. But how can that paper bird make me well? Don't you remember that old story about the crane? Chizuko asked. It's supposed to live for 1,000 years. If a sick person folds 1,000 paper cranes, the gods will grant her wish and make her healthy again. She handed the crane to Sadako. Here's your first one. Sadako's eyes filled with tears. How kind of Chizuko to bring a good luck charm, especially when her friend didn't really believe in such things. Sadako took the golden crane and made a wish. The funniest little feeling came over her when she touched the bird. It must be a good omen. Friends, how is Sadako feeling about the golden crane that her best friend Chizuko has made for her? Is she still feeling scared? Tell me. Right. It sounds like now Sadako is starting to feel more hopeful. I know from my schema that Sadako loves looking for good luck signs like the spider in chapter 1 and like winning the race. I think that this golden crane is helping her feel so much better. Make sure that you pause your video and type in feels hopeful now. Good. ELA Masters, what did Shizuko say will help the gods grant her wish to feel better? Tell me. Yes, it says if a sick person folds 1,000 paper cranes, the gods will grant her wish and make her healthy again. That is a lot of paper cranes, my friends. Let's keep reading. Thank you, Chizuko-chan, she whispered. I'll never, never part with it. When she began to work with the paper, Sadako discovered that folding a crane wasn't as easy as it looked. With Chizuko's help, she learned how to do the difficult parts. After making 10 birds, Sadako lined them up on the table beside the golden crane. Some were a little bit lopsided, but it was a beginning. Now, I have only 990 to make, Sadako said. With the golden crane nearby, she felt safe and lucky. Why, in a few weeks, she would be able to finish the 1,000. Then she would be strong enough to go home. Again, friends, another piece of evidence that shows us that Sadako is feeling hopeful with this plan. That evening, Masahiro brought Sadako's homework from school. When he saw the cranes, he said, "There isn't enough room on that small table to show off your birds. I'll hang them from the ceiling for you." Sadako was smiling all over. "Do you promise to hang every crane I make?" she asked. Masahiro promised. "That's fine," Sadako said, her eyes twinkling with mischief. "Then you'll hang the whole 1,000?" "1,000?" her brother groaned. "You're joking." Sadako told him the story of the cranes. Masahiro ran a hand through his straight black hair. "You tricked me," he said with a grin, "but I'll do it anyhow." He borrowed some thread and tacks from Nurse Yasunaga and hung the first 10 cranes. The golden crane stayed in its place of honor on the table. After supper, Mrs. Sasaki brought Mitsui and Iji to the hospital. Everyone was surprised to see the birds. They reminded Mrs. Sasaki of a famous old poem. Out of colored paper, cranes come flying into our house. Mitsui and Iji liked the golden crane best, but Mrs. Sasaki chose the tiniest one made of fancy green paper with pink parasols around it. "This is my choice," she said, "because small ones are the most difficult to make." After visiting hours, it was lonely in the hospital room. So lonely that Sadako folded more cranes to keep up her courage. 11, I wish I'd get better. 12, I wish I get better. Friends, what do you think Sadako is counting? Tell me. Right! She's counting from 1 to 11 to 12, all the way up to, yes, 1,000 paper cranes. Friends, it sounds like Sadako has an attempt to resolve this very tricky and very difficult problem that she has with battling leukemia. How is she going to plan to try and get better? Tell me. Yes, friends, she is going to fold 1,000 paper cranes. Whoa. Make sure that you pause your video to type in fold 1,000 paper cranes. It's very important that you write 1,000 correctly with a comma after the 1. Good. Friends, can you believe that? 1,000 paper cranes? That sounds amazing. I wonder if she'll be able to achieve this motivation. When you're finished double checking all of your answers, especially thinking about Sadako's perspective when she first got to the hospital and when she got the crane from Chizuko. Go ahead and click next when you're ready.